Everyone loves to hear about a good discovery, and there's plenty out there. Medical breakthroughs, scientific advances, and technological progress. In studying historical remains of past human life, archaeologists have managed to discover some fascinating items. These kinds of discoveries are amazing because they bring old rumours into the present day, and legends to life. So here we have 4 incredible archaeological discoveries, giving answers to ancient questions and truth to 100-year-old stories. The ancient Maya discoveries. The ancient Mayan civilization grew and flourished in the southern part of Mexico and Guatemala. They were one of the most important ancient civilizations that ever existed on planet Earth. The Mayan civilization is known to be the first to use rubber creation diverse products, 3,000 years before people had heard of rubber. The Mayans believed in the nature of life. For them, nothing was ever born and nothing ever died. This belief actually inspired their view on the cosmos and gods. Just like the Egyptians, Mayans were also brilliant astronomers and mathematicians. Mayans are credited for the invention of the number 0 and measuring the length of the solar years with great accuracy. The Mayan script is also one of the things that makes them stand out. It's the only known developed writing system of the pre-Columbian Americans. The earliest inscriptions in identifiable Mayan writing is believed to go back to the 3rd century BCE. Going back in 2012, however, several mysterious artifacts were announced to have been discovered. It started when the Mexican government showed off these incredible artifacts. These were featured on a few websites and caused excitement in the archaeological community. It was also said that the Mexican government kept them hidden away for over 80 years. Researchers soon came forward and said the artifacts had been discovered inside an ancient pyramid. This pyramid was said to have been unexplored, and the researchers at the time discovered a massive haul of these artifacts. Interestingly, it becomes very obvious that these aren't everyday artifacts, and what we see on them includes depictions of UFOs and aliens. This topic interests many of us, and the photographs soon went viral, with many wanting to know the truth about them. However, it wasn't long before people started to question the true nature of the artifacts. When first looking at them, it does appear as though the carvings bear striking resemblance to extraterrestrials. As you can imagine, the UFO community welcomed these objects with open arms, as they thought it detailed first-hand accounts of alien life. It's believed now though by most researchers that the artifacts are fake, and that people were trying to make quick money by selling the story. This has angered some of the UFO community, as all it does is discredit their views and ideas. There are some, however, that think the artifacts are real, and that this story was put out there in order to cover it up and stop people talking about it. Regardless, to this day there still seems to be an ongoing debate about whether ancient civilizations really existed. The Lost City of Giants in Ecuador. Local legends once told of huge prehistoric cities built by giants, and these were hidden in the remote jungles of South America. This was a time when the world was supposedly part inhabited by these giants, who in turn created huge monuments proving their existence. Modern-day explorers heard of these stories, and looking to find the facts behind the fiction turned to local tribes familiar with these jungles. It turns out these tribes knew exactly what the explorers were talking about, and led them to what is now a holy site and a place of worship to these powerful spirits of this lost city of giants. Fighting their way through dense undergrowth and thick trees in a remote part of Ecuador, the researchers were brought to a jungle clearing. There before them was a set of megalithic structures, massive prehistoric monuments built up out of enormous stones. The largest was an 80-metre by 80-metre wide pyramid, which was made out of boulders that couldn't have been less than 2 tons each. All the stones were perfectly aligned, with sharp edges and a slope built at a 60-degree angle, also having the look of a paved wall. These looked to be sculpted by human hands. To add further to this speculation, whilst lichen had over time grown across these monuments, the researchers discovered that beneath these slow-growing plants, the stones were held together by the thick layer of an impenetrable substance, akin to concrete and similar to materials used in the era of the construction of the Mesoamerican pyramids. And it wasn't just these giant pyramidal structures discovered in this city of giants that were most significant to the researchers. Further impressive discoveries were the things that possibly helped build these monuments in the first place. Oversized manufactured tools which were found lying nearby and clearly centuries old. These were hammer-shaped objects, with solid stone hammerheads whose wooden handles had deteriorated over time. But with the addition of the handle, it would have been impossible for the local people of the time to have used these objects in a practical way, let alone build such a precise structure to stand the test of time. For these archaeologists that found the lost city of giants, these clearly unnatural formations are the most material evidence that shows in the past giants did inhabit the earth, leaving huge cities and megalithic structures in their wake. Debate still rages on, however, following this discovery. Researchers looked to the Ecuadorian Ministry of Culture to help with their findings and prompt further research. Instead, the government saw this pyramid-shaped structure as a natural formation, ignoring all the other evidence. However, the team that helped bring this discovery to light believes there are many indications that point to the truth. The colossal boulders, the intricate construction and oversized tools are all clear signs this was not a natural formation, but a clear sign that in the distant past humans of mythical sizes walked the earth, especially in the lost city of giants. The reburial of Richard III of England. How do you lose the tomb and burial place of one of the most famous kings of England? Difficult to lose perhaps, but even more so to find again. Richard III cuts a divided figure in British history, but there is no debate in his significance. He only ruled for 2 years, but his infamy is laid in how he got to the throne in the first place. After his brother, the previous king, died, Richard III declared King Edward's sons, his nephews, illegitimate to succession, and locked them in the Tower of London, taking the crown for himself. And if this sounds to you like an episode of Game of Thrones, you're not far off, since George R.R. Martin's inspiration comes from the civil war that this monarch was so embroiled in. Richard III's fate came to an end on the battlefield in 1485, in the last significant battle of the War of the Roses. But for someone of such importance, how is it that his place of burial got lost in time? As a supposed claimant to the throne, Richard III was subsequently buried in a crude grave at a local church. However, following the church's demolition in the mid-16th century, word was told that Richard's remains had been thrown into a nearby river and his tomb lost forever. Half a millennium later, a university professor maintained that Richard III still remained under the city of Leicester, and had not been, as legend said, thrown into a river by an angry mob. Further research was pursued, culminating in a search underneath a car park in Leicester. The chances of finding Richard III was, to say the least, highly improbable. So much time had passed with no clear indication of an exact location, and yet 6 hours after breaking ground on the first day, archaeologists came across a skeleton with spinal curvature and battle wounds, both consistent with Richard III's physical description and subsequent demise. The skeleton revealed that Richard III had been killed from the blow of a halberd to the head, with further wounds inflicted after his death as humiliation injuries. Carbon dating came to match the bone's age with the period of Richard's death, but the next challenge was to identify beyond reasonable doubt that this skeleton was his. Archaeologists turned to state-of-the-art DNA sequencing, taking DNA extracted from the skeleton's bones. Archaeologists looked to 2 descendants from Richard III's sister, Anne of York, one 17th generation relative and the other of 19th generation. DNA swabs from both matched the DNA of the unearthed bones. Richard III had been found. Having been unearthed, it was only proper that Richard III should be allowed a proper place of burial. In line with standing archaeological practice, it was stated that Richard's remains should be buried at the nearest grounds to the original grave, that being Leicester Cathedral. There was some controversy, however, as Westminster Abbey, the traditional burial place for kings and queens of England, was seen as the true and right location for the reinterment. However, a legal challenge confirmed there was no grounds for a court to be involved in this decision, and the burial took place in Leicester Cathedral on the 26th of March 2015, where Richard III was finally placed at rest. Terra Nova discovered in 2012. When sailing into the harshest environment on Earth for a journey no one has ever embarked on, you need a strong, sturdy ship to get you there, especially when it's the early 20th century. In 1910, Captain Scott gathered a small team to be the first people to reach the South Pole, and to do so they sailed in the ship Terra Nova. This was from Cardiff. Terra Nova was bought by the Captain Scott for £12,500 in 1909, £1.5 million in today's money. She was reinforced with 7 feet of oak protecting her from the Antarctic ice. Scott described her as a wonderful fine ice ship. She seems like a living thing fighting a great fight. In November 1911 they arrived in the Antarctic, beginning their ill-fated 167-mile trek. Whilst the team reached the South Pole, they weren't the first to do so, coming second to the Norwegian team of Ronald Unsman. On their return journey, Captain Robert Scott and his party of 5 sadly perished. However, Terra Nova survived. On her return from Captain Scott's expedition, she took on numerous roles working as a Newfoundland sealing vessel, transporting coal and also as a supply ship for a base stationed in Greenland. During this time, however, in September 1943, she took on significant damage sustained by the ice. The US Coast Guard rescued all her crew, but with the ship unsalvageable, fired into her side, sinking her off the southwest tip of Greenland. There she was lost to the depths below. Sometime later, however, the most incredible of chances came to be her final chapter. A research company was on an exploration exercise, testing new equipment off the coast of Greenland when they happened to stumble upon a boat-shaped feature on the seabed. Further sonar technology revealed the object was 62 yards in length, matching the dimensions of the once-thought lost forever Terra Nova. Sound imaging showed a wooden hull sailing ship, with 3 masts and a funnel. The team sent a camera down for more details of the wreck, confirming what the acoustic test showed. These images were compared with the old photographs of Terra Nova herself, and with that it was confirmed that in the anniversary year of Captain Scott's expedition, the team had discovered the resting place of the once lost wonderful fine ice ship. So what do you make of these incredible 4 archaeological discoveries? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.